when we talk about our thoughts and our ability to think, provides a very interesting concept. That we all think, but do we think about thinking in itself? And if you think about it, funnily enough, if you want to understand our thoughts and why we think a certain way, what better way to do it than to think about thinking? This video will talk about this very same notion. Understand how our thoughts come about so we can find better ways to apply them ourselves. And if you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, subscribe to the Mind Live channel, leave your comments, and click the notification bell to be aware of future videos. This video talks about thinking. And I look forward to seeing you on our next journey. I would like to introduce a different question to you. We all think. Do we, though, ever think about thinking? As thinking is something that we all do, and yet is something that we rarely think about in itself. We all seem consumed by the content of our thoughts. What if, though, we looked at this a little deeper? Where, if you wanted to improve our thinking, what better way could we approach this by understanding how our thoughts come about in the first place? And I do this courtesy of some insights from Hugo Munsterberg, Professor of Psychology at Harvard University. Let us simply start with an ocean wave. We can look at this as an act of causality in chemistry, of its composition, of its movement, where the cause of one motion will affect another, where from physics each atom has its own place, where there is no other way we can attribute its behaviours other than what is connected by each of its movements. We can take the notion of a thought in the same way, where a thought appears without effort, born from a system of sequential compound chemicals which impacts each of our behaviours. So, just like an ocean, our thoughts are brought about by the same act of causality and movement of these chemicals within our brains. There are other ways we can derive our thoughts other than mere chemistry and physics, as a thought is something that carries purpose, brings us towards an ideal. And it is through our purpose that makes us refined and motivated, renders our emotions and shows our colours and character as an individual. After all, the difference between what is physical are the objects in the world that are for all of us. Like the star you see is the same star that I see. And yet a thought is something that only I can feel and no one could relate to, no matter how much they say it does. We may both be angry, but your anger can never be my anger. And the weight of your sadness may not carry the same burdens as mine. As while the paradigm of physics and psychics are well separated, and yet one cannot exist without the other. Causal truth can be only the second word. The first word remains the purposeful truth. This quote tells us so much about how we can interpret our thoughts and what control we can give to them. While causes are an aspect of life that forms the fabric of science, when it comes to our freedom of thought, it is our purpose that firms our foundation. Where sometimes we may believe that we have no control over our thoughts, particularly when we are anxious or depressed. As when our thoughts hit us like rapid fire, at a pace where we struggle to make sense of, we can then bring us back to how our thoughts are formed. As our first word in thought comes from our sense of purpose, and like the same ocean wave, it is through our purpose that we can then support ourselves in motion to allow each of its causes to align itself. That there is an element within us that we can build our strength even when we feel that we are weak, and find solace even through our sadness. And we find this by understanding our meaning in life, as when we think about it, our lives depend on it. As our hearts will beat, our stomachs will churn, our thoughts will wander. And yet, it is through realising our purpose in life that we can form a sensibility from absurdity.